What's up, beautiful ladies and handsome men? I am not sure what's true or false in this story. I take gossip, tea, rumor, and scandal from yesteryear, from online, from word of mouth, from books, and I ball it up and I tell you guys a story. Now, let's get to it. Hey guys, so Miles Davis is taking some time, just like I knew it would. So I went to the member vault and I am releasing a member video. Now I gotta be honest with y'all, everything that was in the members video is not going to be in this video because baby, there was a reason why this doggone video was members only, because what? Child, just a scandalous thing, child. But here you guys go. Solomon Burke.
Hey members, I am so excited to be back with another member exclusive, especially this video, honey. I don't know what's fact, and some of the stuff, child, I don't even want to believe it's fact. But anyways, let's go ahead and get to it. Solomon Burke. James Solomon McDonald was born on March the 21st, 1936 in West Philadelphia. His mother's name was Josephine Moore, and his father was pretty much an absentee dad. In fact, it really seems like this guy was non-existent, but I guess the man's last name was McDonald, since that was Solomon's last name at birth. But it wasn't long before he did have a father figure inside of the home. His mother, Josephine, ended up marrying a man by the name of Vincent Burke. And Vincent, it seems like, was very accepting of the young Solomon. It seems like he was so accepting that they changed Solomon's last name from McDonald to Burke. As a child growing up, Solomon was pretty much led to believe that he could be and do whatever he wanted to be. And his mother led by example. She herself was a nurse, a school teacher, a concert performer, as well as a pastor. So he had this great example with his mother, and Solomon was just born with a bunch of confidence already, honey. So he felt like he was put on this earth to be the man. And there were also two more reasons that Solomon felt like this. The first reason is because his grandmother, Eleanor Moore, consecrated him a bishop as soon as he was born, full ceremony and all. And this was because Eleanor was the founder of Solomon's Temple. And Solomon's Temple was not Church of God in Christ or Baptist or Missionary Baptist or anything like that. Its denomination was known as United House of Prayer for All People. And this particular denomination was started and led by a man named Sweet Daddy Grace. And Sweet Daddy Grace himself was the second reason that Solomon felt like he was born to be the man, because Sweet Daddy Grace was Solomon's godfather. And Sweet Daddy Grace was something serious, honey. Some folks say he was insane. Other folks say that he was a true man of God. And even others say that he was just a clever legend. Whatever he was, Sweet Daddy Grace was a sight to behold and a person to know. He walked around with the flashiest of suits, had nails longer than your favorite vampire, and he got what he wanted. Anything or anybody that he wanted. They were served to him on a silver platter. He was one of the very first celebrity pastors. You know, the money-making pastors, the big flashy, big-time pastors that of course we see all over TV today. Well, Sweet Daddy Grace was not on TV, but in the location that he was at, it is claimed that he had complete control over the masses. Baby, I'm talking about so much control that when his church prayed, they prayed to him as well as God. Or at least that's what gossip says. And this is basically what Solomon Burke was brought up under. You know, he was pretty much his protege. So this is the kind of mindset that was going on. That is why Solomon knew he was the man. Since he was their chosen baby boy, he grew up with all of the trappings bestowed on the next big thing. And almost immediately, he was set on a path to being the next big thing. At the age of 7, he was made into a boy preacher. And preached so well, y'all, that they called him the Boy Wonder. And his style of preaching was very adult-like. He had the whole, and God, he'll see it through. Y'all better go tell it on the mountain today. You know, he had all of that stuff going on. This wonder child, or this wonder boy, gained so many followers because of his type of preaching and because of him knowing these big, huge words in the Bible and memorizing all of these verses and good stuff like that. By the time he was 12, he was the pastor of his own congregation. Many people trusted this child with not only their faith, but their lives. Baby, this child was hosting a full gospel radio show filled with preaching and singing. And speaking of singing, the boy could do that very well. But see, what the folks in church didn't know was that behind closed doors, the songs that Solomon was singing ain't had a lick of gospel in them, honey. Oh, baby, he would cut up on them blues and secular records when he thought nobody was listening, honey. Well, nobody but his grandma. But see, that was okay because, see, that was grandma's baby. and she wouldn't dare tell the world how her pastor of a grandson was out here singing worldly music. But one thing about it, this worldly music and this worldly side was growing very quickly on Solomon. The boy was also a go-getter, and one of his biggest hustles while he was still a child was basically owning his own car wash. And he would charge these people 99 cents per car. That's the same psychology that $1 million companies use on us today. They know that people would rather pay $1.99 than $2 because people have discount imprinted in their brain, and if they see that 99, they are more quick to buy. That's a testament to a child this young knowing that psychology. So it seems that this child truly was a boy wonder. To move along though, by the time Solomon was in high school, he formed his own gospel quartet, and their names were the Gospel Cavaliers, and they performed at several churches and several talent shows. But egos as well as other plans in life ended up breaking up that group, and so when it broke up, Solomon just felt like, hey, I should just go with this thing solo. And he himself started to enter as well as win many talent contests. There was this one talent show though that was bigger than the rest, and Solomon was up against some heavy hitters, honey. I'm talking about a bunch of young men that could truly sing. These guys could really knock your socks off, and Solomon came out as the top winner. So all of a sudden, there was a lot of people hounding Solomon, asking him to sign with them. Eventually, Solomon did make out with a new record label. It was 1955, and he signed with Apollo Records. He also made out with a new manager, and this guy's name was Kay Williams. Now, Apollo Records put Solomon to work immediately, but unfortunately, his early records just did not make any sales. Then things turned really bad when Solomon found out that his manager, Kay Williams, had something to do with trying to con him out of his very small royalties. And baby, some of these folks out here on the streets say that it didn't just turn real bad, said that Solomon actually walked up on Kay Williams and tried to bust him upside the head. Whatever the case, Apollo didn't want to have any of this mess with Solomon and Kay Williams, so they ended up dropping Solomon. Now, he did go back to them for a little while and recorded under the name of Vincent, but eventually he left Apollo Records for good. After Apollo Records, Solomon went on to sign with about 2 or 3 more small known record labels, but again, he did not have much success. And then in 1960, he ended up signing with Atlantic Records. And finally, Solomon was given material that was up to par with the type of voice that he had, and he came into his success very quickly. In fact, the man knocked it out of the freaking park, baby, especially with these 2 songs. One song was Just Out of Reach, which was actually a country song, but this song became Solomon Burke's first $1 million seller, and his second really huge song was a song called Cry to Me. And everybody, honey, especially down south, everybody was somewhere singing Cry to Me. So now that Solomon Burke has stepped into his first bit of success, y'all know exactly what time it is. It is time, honey, to get to the scandalous, sizzling hot tea for Mr. Solomon Burke. And these very first rumors ain't that juicy, but honey, the further we go, the juicier it gets, baby. Now, this first rumor is about Solomon and him singing blues or secular music. Now, see, honey, they say when he first got on the scene of trying to sing and get a record label and all this good stuff, that Solomon would actually argue with the record execs, even at Atlantic, because he felt like, he didn't want to sing a song that was too bluesy or too R&B, because, he still had his congregation, and he did. Let's make that clear now. While Solomon Burke was out here singing these songs and being this king of music and all of this good stuff, he still had his holy congregation here on the side, okay? So anyway, he was like, I don't feel like I need to say those words. I don't feel like I need to sing this. It's too R&B and all of this good stuff. Child, they said Solomon saw that first doggone royalty check from Atlantic. Baby, he forgot all about them folks in the church, honey. Child, that man didn't start backsliding. He started moonwalking. Baby, Solomon was singing blues, soul, R&B, and he'll probably sing rock and roll metal music if you let him, honey. This next rumor, which is possibly fact, says that Solomon Burke was actually the man that created the phrase soul music. The coining of the term is accredited to him. Another rumor is the fact that Jerry Wexler of Atlantic Records loved Solomon Burke. He loved everything about the man, the way he sounded, the way he performed. And let me say this about how Solomon Burke performed. He treated his secular performances the same way he did at church. You know what I'm saying? He would cuff the microphone and do all this kind of stuff, and then he would have his audience running down the aisles. The same way at church when somebody running and getting saved. Jerry Wexler absolutely loved this. In fact, Jerry Wexler thought that Solomon Burke was the best male soul singer out. So now listen to this. Solomon Burke, when he used to perform, he used to also wear a cape just like James Brown. In fact, he and James Brown were said to be a lot alike in their performances. Now Solomon Burke was kind of on the heavy side, so he couldn't drop to his knees and do all this falling out and stuff. Since James Brown could do all of this extra stuff and he was very athletic, you know, his performances will be slightly over Solomon Burke. But child, gossip says that Solomon had something for James behind, and that is when he went on stage and he threw his cape off, and his cape floated off of the stage. Blew everybody's mind. Y'all should have been there. I mean, what the heck is that? Throw your cape off and your cape floats off the stage? If Solomon done that stuff today, he probably would have been canceled, child. Because, baby, don't you know they say he had a midget up under that doggone cape? So the midget would walk out, like, right behind him very closely, and then when he threw the cape off, the midget would wrap up in it real quick and stroll on off the stage, child. Now, to talk more about Solomon Burke and James Brown, although the two were competitors, things weren't so bad at first. But then Solomon Burke was crowned King of Rock and Soul by a really prominent radio station. And baby, I'm not talking about just somebody on the radio station saying something. No, honey, they had a full coronation and everything. Solomon came and he performed 5 nights in a row, and every single night they would have a coronation with somebody walking out with the crown placed on his head, and then they'll come out with the robe and place it on his shoulders. This was a statement and a testament that Solomon Burke was the original king of rock and soul. Everybody was praising Solomon Burke except one little person, that James Brown, honey. Oh, honey, he was very upset and felt like he deserved the title. And then when Papa's Got a Brand New Bag came out and basically went to the top, that's when James really felt like he deserved the title. He wanted it so bad that he was calling that radio station up, you know, calling anybody associated with that title and basically telling them that, hey, I deserve that title. I've sold more records than Solomon Burke, you know what I'm saying? I put on a better show. Well, when he found out that those people were not gonna basically yank the title away from Solomon Burke, this is what James did. Hey, Solomon, hey man, how about you come do a show with James Brown? No, you're not gonna sing with me. No, you ain't gonna sing with me now. I just want you to come and stand on the stage. I'm gonna perform, and then you hand over your crown and your robe and give it to me. Yeah, James Brown. Yeah, you know, I'll be the new king of soul. That's right. It's claimed that James Brown called Solomon Burke and basically told him, hey, I want you to come to a show with me and stand on stage with me with your crown and your robe, and I'm gonna sing and put on the best performance of my life. After I'm done, you hand your crown and robe over to me and proclaim me the new king of rock and soul. And for this, James Brown was going to pay Solomon Burke $7,500. And you know what Solomon Burke did? He accepted it. So it's time for the show. James is all happy, you know, he's waiting for Solomon to arrive, and he's looking around, he's checking his watch, you know, and then Solomon actually shows up. They talk a bit and greet each other and talk about how everything is gonna go down, and then James gets on stage. He's doing all his rock and roll moves, honey. He's hollering, sweating everywhere, he's dropping to his knees. The only thing that is missing from his performance is his cape, because he's about to get Solomon's cape. And so while he's doing his performance, Solomon comes and stands on the stage beside him, just like he asked him to do. And after James gets done with his stunning, flashy performance, Solomon Burke walks over to him, pats him on the back, and runs and get in the car, and then left with his crown and his robe on his head, baby. That man that took James $7,500 was in that car and gone, honey. Child, James Brown got. And this is what is said, or what rumor has, is to be the start of their like literal hate for each other. Now, in addition to Solomon Burke being a great behind singer as well as a trickster, he still had that same business mind that he had as a child, and at his shows he made sure that him and his entourage took over the concession stand. And of course, all of that bank would go into Solomon Burke's pocket. And it's claimed that one day he was performing with Sam and Dave. Sam Moore of Sam and Dave went backstage and bought a plate from them. And these plates were not cheap plates, okay? Because what would happen is that there were not restaurants around to serve these black entertainers, all right? So they didn't really have no choice but to go and eat what Solomon had. Sam Moore goes and pays whatever big money it is for a plate. And Sam said on this plate there was 1 pork chop, 1 scoop of macaroni and cheese, and 1 scoop of gravy. And so immediately Sam is like, wait a minute, hold on. So man, you mean to tell me I paid you all this money? Like, you can't even give me 2 pork chops? Like, what's going on? Child, said Solomon Burke told him, That's it, brother. Shoot, I'm doing you a favor. So you either take it or leave it. So, the man was a ruthless businessman. And also, he owned some funeral parlors. He owned a limousine service. Baby, the man even owned his own brand of fast food. And these were called Soul Dogs, which of course was the hot dogs, and Soul Corn, which of course was the popcorn. And they're selling his product in the concession stands. He was a genius when it came down to money. So never get it twisted, baby. Solomon Burke was paid. And rumor has it he was also a man of many lies, child. Said that Solomon used to just be lying just to be lying. Baby, he gave so many different origin stories, like when people would ask about his backstory or how he got started in music. Child, one day he claimed that he had worked in a lunatic asylum in Philadelphia, and I guess one of the mental patients had got after him or something like that. So he ran down the hallway hollering and screaming, and then when he got outside, he jumped in a horse and buggy and rode all the way to California. And another story that he lied about, he said that one time that they had booked him a performance by mistake in front of the Ku Klux Klan. Then he claimed that he got on stage and he started singing, and before you know it, he had 30,000 Ku Klux Klan members like singing with him and raising his hand and stuff like that. Child, the record book shows that never happened. Now let's get into what Solomon Burke was said to be the very best at, honey. The women out here said the man was a full-blown Casanova and Valentino wrapped into one. Said that he could not only charm a woman out of her panties, when she came out of those panties, honey, he would give her an out-of-body experience. And after that out-of-body experience, he could go further to charm her out of everything that she had. Said if any one of you women watching this video today met him, y'all wouldn't stand a chance. Baby said he'll be talking to you today and have you wrapped up like a pretzel around him tonight. This is where it gets dangerous, honey, because not only was this said about grown-up Solomon Burke, baby, this was said about teenage Solomon Burke. What? Child. Now listen, it's finna get real messy and real juicy. Per the word on the streets, while Solomon was preaching as a youngster, he would be outside around the building fingering young girls his age, as well as some say possibly some grown women. And I'm talking about at this age, Solomon was only like 11, 12, 13 years old. In fact, by the age of 13, possibly even 12, it's claimed that Solomon was having full-blown sex. Now, I don't know if this particular girl was a part of his congregation or not, but I do know that by the age of 14 years old, Solomon Burke became a father to his first child. And then get this, after he signed his record label with Apollo Records, it got even worse because some of these grown women didn't even know they were sleeping with a boy. Solomon signed his record label at the age of 15, but the label raised his age by 4 years. They would claim that he was 19 years old. So there were a lot of grown women who, yes, they thought they were sleeping with a young man, but they had no idea that they were sleeping with an underage boy. And he had a lot of them. He was so charismatic and so persuasive. Child, listen to this. This is how much the boy had it, honey. There was this one time when he was coming out of a club and he got hit by a car. Well, driving this car was a woman named Ohella Thompson. By the time Solomon got finished talking to her after that accident, baby, he went home with her and moved into the house with her. Now, I'm not saying that he and Ohella Thompson were in a sexual relationship or any relationship at all, but what I am saying is this boy was so good with his words and had such a silver tongue that he talked himself into living in her house after she had hit him with the car. And so now Solomon is living with Ohella, and then one night he comes home. As soon as he steps through the door, Solomon's heart is pounding out of its chest because he has walked in on Ohella's niece, a young girl by the name of Dolores. Boom! Knocked Solomon off of his feet, honey, and into a marriage. And that marriage led Solomon and Dolores into having 7 children. But then Dolores found out that Solomon had been married before to a woman named Doris P. Williams. And the marriage only lasted for 2 months, but it did result in the birth of a baby girl. And so this, of course, may have been a shocking revelation to Dolores, but she took this in stride. But there was something else she realized she was going to have to take in stride. And that was Solomon's cheating and very disrespectful way. And there was a lot of cheating. Like he would just do this with each woman. Eventually, Solomon and Dolores separated, and then he married a woman named Bernadine. And he and Bernadine separated, and he married a woman named Frances. Now, the reason I keep saying separated instead of divorced is because Solomon Burke was just like Josephine Baker. Ain't divorced no doggone body, honey. And speaking of his last marriage to Frances, it's a little bit of mess there, honey. A little bit of tea, but we'll get to that in just a minute. So anyways, Solomon Burke was married 4 times and then all had 21 children, and the majority of those 21 children did not come from his wives, honey. Now let's talk about some of his sexual conquest, and the first person on the list is Miss Betty LaVette, honey. So Betty LaVette met Solomon Burke when she was briefly signed to Atlantic and they were on the same label. Per Betty, Solomon called her one day and was like, I want you to come sing on tour with me. She says immediately when she got there, Solomon demanded that she call him daddy. And she also says that after the shows at nighttime, he would call her to come to his bathroom and sit on the tub, like she would sit on the side of the tub while he was inside of the tub, butt naked. And what he would like to do is while he was taking his bath, he would talk to Betty. He would start preaching to her and talk to her about God, how she needed to serve God, how she needed to try to live more upright, just get herself together in Christ. Then he would get out of the tub, head to the bed, lay down on the bed, and then implore her to come and sit on top of him. This pretty much happened every night on tour, and Betty basically got the idea that when he asked for her to come on tour, this was part of it. She was supposed to sleep with him every night. That was the exchange for her being on a tour with a big name person. And Betty didn't have no qualms about it, you know what I'm saying? She wasn't upset or anything. Like, she would just get on top of him and ride him like it was, and that was the deal. Well, one day towards the end of them touring in this particular city, Betty got tired of making love to Solomon Burke. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was always one-sided. She would have to ride him, but he couldn't really do much to her because he was real big, and she just wanted some real love making. In fact, she was dating a very handsome man and she wanted to have sex with her boyfriend. So on this particular night, and then when everybody went back to their room, she had her boyfriend sneak into her hotel room. Solomon knocks on the door and he's like, Betty LaVette, you in there? And Betty says she doesn't say anything. And she tells her boyfriend, shh, don't say nothing. But finally, they hear him walking down the hallway. She and her boyfriend are giggling, she climbs on top of him, and they go to town that night. Well, the next morning, Betty sneaks her boyfriend out, and then she goes around the hotel and knocks on Solomon's door, and she's just basically looking for the whole entourage because they have to head out. And they did head out and left Betty LaVette there, honey. Yes, child. Solomon had got mad, baby. He knew that Betty was in there with her mate. Baby, Solomon wasn't playing none of that, honey. He and his entourage snuck out that morning and left her and went on to the next city. And basically, Betty had to find a way home. And then listen to this. Listen how petty Solomon was. Baby, he had not paid her for the tour yet, honey. So Betty had sang all of these nights and performed with no pay. And Solomon took off without paying a child. But if you think that Betty LaVette story was something, honey, child, now it's time to get into some scandalous rumors that were told to me by a niece of a woman who supposedly messed around for a minute with Solomon Burke, child. Woo! So per the gossip of this woman, Solomon Burke was a big old huge freak, honey. And it's claimed that he had a fetish with making babies. Not only did he like to make love and have sex, he liked to implant the seed in there. And she also claimed that it's a lot of times that he threatened the women, like, don't you get no abortion, like, you gonna have my baby. Then she said he had this weird fetish with like food in women. Said a lot of the times he would imagine his woman as a piece of food. Like, imagine a woman as a big fat juicy piece of chicken or piece of pork chop, and would kind of get turned on by this. He did have this problem where he just consumed food like a vacuum cleaner, honey. I mean, he just suck it up, baby. So he just always ate, and food made him very happy. But some kind of way, per this gossip, he would like make it into a sexual thing. And like I said, he would compare his women to food. Like, it said that plenty of times he would say about a woman, look at her out there, ooh man, she look like a big fat juicy steak. And child, listen to this, honey. Child, the girl said that one time her aunt told her that she was on top of Solomon like most women were, and that he wanted to. Okay, so he was lifting her up, but child, Solomon's arms got weak, child. Just got to shaking like this, honey, and eventually dropped the doggone woman. And just because he could not get that woman on top of his face, there are plenty of rumors out here that claim that that is something that he liked to do. Supposedly, he liked to do a lot of things that he felt like other guys possibly were not doing. He wanted your experience with him to be the best you ever had. So all in your mind, it was always Solomon Burke. There would never be another lover that I y'all ever get that would compare to Solomon Burke. Another rumor that came from this woman's niece is that the auntie said that he did things to her that she felt like were wrong, but it made her feel good, made her feel like she was walking on clouds. Now, with this one, they didn't say these words. Nobody said these words, but I don't know why this makes me feel like Solomon Burke was eating. And that's why she felt dirty, and I'm sorry, baby. But that's maybe why she felt so dirty and felt like it was wrong. Then you have the rumors about Solomon Burke sleeping with multiple women at one time. It is claimed that it would be a regular occurrence for him to bring multiple women to bed, and then he wake up in the morning and admire just all of the beautiful women. Now, here's the thing. With Solomon having all of this stuff going on, like I've told you before, he still had his church. He still was a pastor. In fact, that is what he was saying to Betty LaVette. He was not only talking to her about serving God, he was telling her that she needed to become a member of his church. And can you believe this man sitting up there telling this woman to serve God and become a member of his church, and then telling her, okay, come on, let's move on to the bed, and pooking with this woman after that? But anyways, his nature, his sexual nature was very high still in the church, and also his kingly nature was still very going on in the church. Like his church, his pulpit or altar, he had a throne built. There was a throne chair built for him, and he would sit on that throne every Sunday with a crown on his head, honey, and a robe on. But anyways, back to the sexual stuff. Like, yes, he brought that whole sexual energy inside of the church. Listen to one of the things he said. Hey, a minister in bed is still a man. He got them same feelings. It's just before he gets started, he just says, in the name of the Lord, baby, we gonna do it. Like, this is the stuff that Solomon Burke was saying. Then you got the things he said about his uncle, and his uncle was also a preacher. So it's claimed that his uncle was praying for a woman, putting a blessing on her. Don't you know, while that man was praying, Solomon said, he probably giving him one of them show business blessings. And then 9 months from now, a star will be born. Like, what? Like, you're talking about your uncle having sex with this woman that he's praying for, and 9 months later having a baby. Or per gossip. All of this is alleged. Let me say that. All of this is alleged. And because he was this way, there was a sexual nature and a sexual energy inside of his church. It is claimed that a lot of those women would sit up there and flash Solomon. Now, this would be done very discreetly. You know what I mean? Like, the whole church wouldn't know about it. But yeah, they said Solomon got a few little peeks. And it's also claimed that when he was preaching, he would sometimes wink and kind of point out a woman in the audience. And from my research, or from what it looks like, there were no complaints about this. Like, it seems like the people, if they were a member of this church, this was kind of the accepted behavior. You knew it was going to be a sexual nature, and you knew that your pastor was going to sometimes make sex jokes and possibly sleep with some of the women in the congregation. Then listen to this rumor, and this situation happened when Solomon got older, so probably about maybe the 90s, but he was older and he was performing in a club. The whole time he was performing, there was this lady in the audience, and she was drunk, and she was like, "Ooh, Solomon, baby, I love you, I love you. I paid my $8.50 and I want something, And so Solomon is like, "Well, what do you want?" And she was like, "Well, can I ride in your Cadillac?" And then he said, "Well, baby, I don't know, because listen, if you ride in my Cadillac, you're gonna have to give some of that TT up. That's what that is." And then the woman was like, "Oh, I've been waiting to do that for years now." So anyways, while this is going on, the whole establishment is trying to stay professional. You know what I'm saying? They had this waitress there. She's going around filling up everybody's drinks, and she's just keeping things really respectful and very professional the whole time while all this foolishness is going on. And then at the end of the night, when the club was over, that lady that was drunk, she was ready to go outside and ride in Solomon's Cadillac. That woman went to get in that doggone Cadillac and open that door. Child, Solomon was in there with the waitress, honey. Waitress had food, everybody, acting like she was all upright and didn't want nothing to do with Solomon. Baby, that waitress had got in the car and pulled off with Solomon and left, baby. And not only was that drunk woman sitting up there mad because she had got sat up, the owner of the club supposedly was mad, honey, because I'm guessing the waitress was his girlfriend or something like that. So anyways, Solomon Burke's music career went on well into the 70s, 80s, 90s, and things like that. In fact, in the year of 2003, he won a Grammy for his album Don't Give Up on Me Now. And then 2010 was the year he released his last album. Now, one thing about Solomon Burke, though, is that this man was the same way from birth to the end of his life. Those values he kept about food, women, God, all of this kind of stuff, like that's who he was. And if anybody had any doubt, baby, they found out in those years towards the end of his life, because see, at this time Solomon was married to Frances, and then around 2006, that's when he started getting ill because his weight was just so big, you know, so he started getting all of these illnesses that would come with being overweight, and one of those was arthritis, so he had to start using a wheelchair. And instead of taking this time to kind of slow down and enjoy his last years with Frances, what Solomon did was hire a nurse to come to his home and take care of him. Baby, the folks claim that Solomon started sleeping with that woman. And not only that, it's claimed that he ended up moving that nurse into the house with him. He had his nurse that he was sleeping with, and he had Frances. Did they ever do threesomes and menage a trois? I have no idea, but I will say that this man thoroughly enjoyed himself and lived his life to the fullest, honey.
Okay, child, this is the extra tea at the end. Baby, Solomon Burke's daughter, Dr. Justice Melanie Burke McCall, is going in on her father. Apparently, she has a Facebook page called Justice for Dolores Burke, whom was her mother, okay?
And I'm not going to complete this thought right here, guys, because this was one of many things that made this a members only video. But I believe that page is still up on Facebook if you guys want to go do your own research. But anyways, back to the video.
On October the 10th, 2010, Solomon died at the Amsterdam Schiphol airport while he was on a plane that had just landed. Per the reports, he died of natural causes from old age, as well as him being severely overweight. And at the time of his death, it's claimed that he was 70 years old. Or 74, some sources would claim, and that goes back to that lie when they added 4 years to his age back when he was like 15 years old. So, child, anyways, but this is the end of the old Hollywood scandalous story of Mr. Solomon Burke. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys with another member scandal soon.